everybody. This is Keith Gleason, host of Indie Comics Relay, creator of the Mighty Mascots, and promoter for the Plastic City Comic Con. And I'm here with another How to Start Your Convention video. Every time I think I'm done these things, I have more ideas, more things I can add to this series. So I just more aspects of conventions to talk about. So one thing I never talked about in all the other videos was guests, like how to get guests, what to do with guests, like where to get them, what kind of guests you want, that kind of thing for your convention. Now, it all depends on the kind of show that you're throwing. Like with Plastic City, we are, a Comic Con. And speaking of which, let me share this real quick. Plastic City Comic Con, August 19th, 2023. We are in a new location, Fitchburg Game On Sports Complex. This is awesome. We got the whole show on 5 basketball courts, and it's going to be amazing. We've doubled the amount of tables, the amount of vendors, guests, artwork, writers, crafters, everything at this show. And the best part, still only $10, free parking. Kids 12 and under free. You won't find a better show this size anywhere in the US. So definitely come and check out Plastic City Comic Con, especially if you're a comic book fan. This show is for you. So, and then we just added, look at all these guests. This is the whole list so far. We're still adding people as we go. Just wanted to highlight too that we got Ron Rudat and Larry Stroman. We just added those guys to the site. Ron is the legendary designer of all the G.I. Joes from like 1981 to like 1987 at Hasbro. So all your favorites, included Snake Eyes, Duke, all those guys, he designed. So we're going to have him at the show. He also designed the Cobra logo. How cool is that? So that's a cool guest that we got. And Larry Stroman, he used to draw X Factor, Ghost Rider, Punisher. He had his own book and image called Tribe. So it's another great classic guest. So check that out. So, all right. So enough of my plugs. Let's get back to the video here. All right. So as far as guests go, like I just showed you the page there. So some of these guys that I have coming to the show is relationships that I built up over the years, especially guys like Joe St. Pierre. I knew because I tabled next to him years ago, 10 plus years ago at this point. And I've known him. I kept in touch, some guys that like are creators that I came up with, like Rich Woodall, Joseph Schmalke, which I've met a few years ago, Alex Cormack, guys like that, Jim Lawson, Sean Wang, all great indie guys, but also have done some cool stuff in the comic industry and would make great guests for your shows. And it's all people I've met from just doing Comic Cons. And I know you're probably saying like, oh, well, of course, these people, because, you're at these shows. But what if I'm just starting a show and I don't go to a lot of Comic Cons and things like that? It's a lot of reaching out. The one thing that I've noticed is once you start a Comic Con and you start advertising that you're doing a Comic Con, stuff will start coming to you. Like, I can't tell you, every other week I get an email from an agent that has all these guests, for our show that are available, and most of them, it's just not a fit for us because a lot of them are celebrity guests, not very little have comic guests. Some of them do. Some of them have both, The problem is a lot of these, places that send these emails or these agents, they don't even really look into the kind of show you are. They just see that there's a convention and then they go to the convention website and they email like their client list, you know what I mean? So they don't even, so with us, the problem we run into that, something to think about if you do book guests is that we are a one-day show in Massachusetts. So a lot of these guests, if someone lives in California, they're not going to want to fly in for one day. So, sometimes what we'll do is like with Larry, we had Larry Hama a few years ago, who's, wonderful creator, G.I. Joe and things like that. so he's, I believe, in New York or Pennsylvania or something like that. He took a train up, on Friday. We picked him up, had him brought to the hotel, and then he did our show, the convention, on Saturday, and then I worked with our local comic store to see if we could get an appearance for Larry on Sunday, and they were all about that. So that's how we kind of worked it. So we had him at the show all day Saturday, got him back to his hotel, and then the next morning the comic store picked up from there, picked him up, brought him to the store for the appearance, and then got him on his train that night so he could go home. So there's stuff you could do like that if you're a one-day show, where you could try to partner with a local shop to see if they can cover the other day. So that way you can bring in a guest. But most of them, I find, unless you're paying a ton of money, they are not going to fly in for a day. And comic guests you can find, like, within the New England area, we have a bunch, so I'm able to get people to come that are very close by or with driving distance, that'll come in for the day, or maybe we'll hook them up with a hotel for the weekend so they can drive in on Friday and leave on Sunday, that kind of thing. So that's another bridge I wanted to talk about too. So depending on your budget with your Comic-Con too, you got to factor in a bunch of stuff with guests. You got to factor in, some guests have an appearance fee, some guests have a guarantee, some guests have, you know they need this, or they need, Evian water, whatever. There's always kind of weird requests sometimes. But so guarantees are, so say, you have, I don't know, somebody from the MCU or something come to your show, and they probably have a $10,000 guarantee. What that means is that they have to make $10,000 at your show. And if they don't, the show has to actually kick in the difference. So you got to be careful with that, because unless you advertise really strongly and you think you can make the 10,000 with that guest, that's where the promoter has to weigh, what they want to do, and if you have the budget for that, because, you can get sued if you don't pay that guarantee, things like that, because it's almost like a contract, if you think about it. And then a lot of people do, like Ron Rudat, who I have coming to my show, the GI Joe designer. He has an appearance fee, which is just a simple, you pay the fee and he comes, and then that's about it. That's all they want. So, and a table, of course, and all that stuff. So you gotta make sure you have a table laid out, and probably a nice, if you have a guest, you may want to get a nice satin, not even, I mean, I'm satin, but like a nice tablecloth for them. And if they don't have banner, you may want to make one of those up. So these are all costs that you got to think about, when you book a guest. The other thing you got to want to do is, if you have some nice guests, not every show does this, but it's nice to do it. I think it shows that you're very customer driven. You got to think about that in terms of your convention, is to, these guests come in, they drive in, they fly in, whatever, but feed them, give them lunch for the day. May have one of your volunteers run out to get something, or even have your volunteers run the show and you go around and talk to them, and get their orders, things like that, and then just get them a nice lunch. So that's something you should do. Some guests will ask for, a 50-day per diem, and usually if they do that, you don't have to worry about lunch, because that 50-day per diem will cover lunches and whatever snacks they need, or if they need to walk away for a minute, that kind of thing. And then so that's all stuff to think about. When you put your budget together, you really got to think, if you're gonna have guests, you got to worry about flights. Some guests will insist or demand on, first class, so you got to pay for that. And then if you got to fly, and the other thing that's weird, if you haven't flown in a long time, there's a lot of high-end fees now for flying people back on Sundays. So you got to be prepared to spend that extra money to get somebody flown back on Sunday, because not a lot of guests are going to want to stay till Tuesday. So it's cheaper for you to send back, um, and then you got to have a nice hotel. You can't put them in the crappy, the hotels where people rent out rooms for the weeks there, so you got to have them in a nice hotel close to the convention if you're lucky. And if you're throwing your convention in a hotel, you can probably work with the hotel to get a nice room, for the guests there, and sell blocks of rooms as well. You can work for, discounts and things like that. Yeah, that's about it. So you get, flight, hotel, food, and then, if you have an after party, like we were planning on, we ended up canceling it, but we were planning on having Roy Thomas at the show. And Roy has such a huge appearance fee now that what we were going to do is we were going to, have like a dinner, in the middle of the day or even after the show. I can't remember, but it was like, you paid, I don't know, something like $100 a ticket or something. You can have dinner with Roy Thomas, and then you can have like a couple things signed, get a picture with them, just hear stories. And it was like, a couple hours experience, for $100, and we were going to limit it to like 30 people. And that's how we were going to pay for Roy's appearance at our show. So you can do things like that as well, but you got to make sure the guest is open to things like that, So we don't have, we haven't had a lot of guests at our show. We stopped doing the celebrity thing, a couple of years ago. We used to have wrestlers, like we had Tony Atlas at our show. We had Corin Nemec from Stargate and Parker Lewis come to our show one year. And even with him, he didn't realize until he got to our show that it was only one day. He thought it was a multiple day. So he was like, going out of his mind in the hotel on Sunday. But it is what it is, so yeah, so we kind of just started after that, we kind of just started to stick towards comic guests, because the main goal with my convention was to be a comic centric show. So I concentrate on getting good comic guests, stuff people want to, get signed, things like that. And then try to keep the admission low and the tables low for all the vendors, that was the whole goal of the show. And I'm constantly getting that pressure to go to 2 days. And it's like, and that's the other reason to do 2 days, is that you get the guests for both days, but I don't know. Our show started as one day, so I'm kind of keeping it in that formula. And usually when you have something good, you try not to ruin it by making it like bigger, which a lot of people do. But I'm trying to keep it, at a reasonable level. So, but that's all I could think of for guests. But I wanted to show you this too. This is usually the kind of emails that you would get, from agents. Like this one I got, and this one is kind of good. It's got a few good, they got a lot of comic artists and stuff here that I can choose from. Some of these are really good. And and then they got like other people, like down below I think they had some celebrities. But you could just, you get an email like this, you can just respond and say, hey, how much, what's the details for Steve Lealola or Tom Cook, that kind of thing. And then you can just go through and see if that works for you, So yeah, once you start a show and you start putting it out there, on Facebook or on convention scene, things like that, you will start to get these emails, so just to let you know. So but I thought I'd show that to you guys. So that's what it looks like. And that's, some of the options that you will get. So, all right. Any questions, send me a comment on the video. If you have any questions about conventions, things like that, I'm happy to answer. And there's a whole playlist on my main YouTube page of all these convention videos. So if you're starting a show, watch them all, listen to what I'm saying, and learn from me. I've been doing this forever, so well, not forever, since 2016. So, and I've never lost money yet. So, so it's a humble brag, I guess. So, all right. But anyways, everybody have a great week. Plastic City, August 19th, 2023, from 10 to 5. Mission $10, free parking, kids 12 and under for free. Join us, follow us on Facebook, follow our Twitter and Instagram and all that. And we hope to see you there. And then most importantly, I want you guys to read some comics. All right. Have a great one, and we will talk to you later. Bye.